2024 was a golden year for Northern Irish sport with 4 medals at the Paris Olympics. There was no way 2025 could possibly live up to that. But somehow it was even better. Our sporting superstars won Premier League medals, world titles and created sporting history.
Surely it's done enough to become the IBF Welterweight champion, Lewis Crocker, and Paddy Donovan giving the crowd another cracker.
Born in Ireland, trying a field goal here for 22 yards to extend the giant lead. And that's his second career field goal.
Linfield Football Club are champions once again.
Congratulations to Kate O'Connor on winning a silver medal in the heptathlon at the World Athletics Championships in Japan.
And Michael Dunlop's going to take his 30th victory at the TT on the Italian machine. 7 different manufacturers he's won for now.
The Belfast Giants are the 2025 Challenge Cup champions, their 6th title.
There is Conor Bradley. What a moment for the youngster.
What a night this is for Tyrone, because they're on their way to the semi-finals. And now
he's finally done it. Masters champion. And after many tears, his talent fulfilled and now unbridled joy.
To reflect on the year that was, I'm joined by the Belfast Telegraph chief sportswriter Steven Beacom and news reporter Niamh Campbell. Steven, what a year of sport it was. We've got a great list here of 15 to count down. No prizes for guessing what's number 1. But there's a few that missed out. Maybe you could give us a rundown, I think, of nearlies.
Do you know what, Keith? Before we get into this, you see Northern Ireland sport. It is absolutely phenomenal right now. What we are achieving on a global scale is incredible. And all of our sports stars are inspiring future generations to come. I'm going to give you a few that didn't even make the top 15, which tells you how great a position Northern Ireland sport is in right now. Take example, Jack McMillan and Daniel Whiffen. We're going to dive in with those guys. They were successful in the European Short Course Championships, and I can't wait to see what they do in 2026. And another wonderful swimmer of ours, Bethany Firth, who came back from motherhood to be successful in the World Para Championships, winning a silver medal. And then you've got someone like Mark Allen, the great cueist from Antrim, who won the English Open. And listen, look out for Alan in the World Championships in 2026. It might just be his year. And lately, Nick Griggs, fantastic young athlete, wonderful young man, lucky to interview him. He won at the European Cross Country Under-23 Championships. So that's just a flavour of some of the people who didn't make the top 15. And I'm certain that the listeners and the viewers are looking forward to see who makes it in the countdown.
Yeah, Niamh, we've got some great names coming up on this list. You're from Tyrone. You gotta be delighted with Conor Bradley and everything he's achieved.
100%. And the thing is as well, Conor Bradley comes from a good GA background as well for a yarn. And just whenever Stephen was talking there about how well Northern Ireland has done for sport this year, obviously we've got the likes of Rory McIlroy and Lewis Crocker. It'll be no surprise to anyone there coming up. I actually wrote a story recently about the fact that Belfast has been given official European City of Sport status, which is just amazing. And they had a big event at City Hall for that with the likes of Lewis Crocker and Mary Peters too. So I think that just goes to show that sport is really in the blood of this city, and they're going to do everything they can now. They're partnering with leisure centres to encourage more people to get into sport and to really thrive off that. And obviously, and I know we'll talk a bit about this too, I'm from Tyrone, obviously the sort of heartland of GAA, but Belfast really is the heartland of boxing, I think, at the minute, not just with Lewis Crocker. And obviously we have Cardframpton as well. So yeah, just another, I think Northern Ireland's always punched above its weight, pardon the pun, in terms of doing well at sport. But I think this year in particular has been especially great.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's dig straight into the list. 15 wasn't a great year for rugby in general, particularly for Ulster rugby. But Rory Best appointment, that's something that caught your eye, Stephen?
Yeah, let's celebrate the fact that one of the greats of Ulster and Irish rugby is back with Ulster. He's the new general manager. And it's been no coincidence, in my opinion, that results have suddenly taken an upturn for Ulster since Rory has returned to Ravenhill. Listen, 2025 was not a year to remember for Ulster rugby and indeed Irish rugby in many respects. But I do see hope. And I see crowds increasing gradually back at Ravenhill. And I think we have something to look forward to in the future. It's been a turbulent time at Ulster Rugby, no doubt about that. But with Rory Best there, I think we're about to sail in smoother waters.
Niamh, from an Ireland perspective, it was a mixed year for the men in terms of a great result against England in the Six Nations, but then there were the disappointing results in the autumn internationals with the defeats to New Zealand and South Africa. But the women quarterfinals of the World Cup, that was a great achievement.
Yeah, it was definitely a great achievement in terms of as well when you look at the fact that 4 years ago they failed to make that. Keith, so I suppose you can look at in terms of the men, it's one door closing, another one opening for the women when you look at it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. 14, Stephen, the Belfast Giants won the Elite League.
Yeah, I love the Belfast Giants. I love the story of the Belfast Giants. It was decades ago that they arrived on the scene. No history of ice hockey in this country whatsoever, and the people have taken the Belfast Giants to their hearts. If you ever get a chance and you haven't done so far, you've got to get along to a home match at the SSE Arena. They do it so well, and the success that franchise has had, Keith, over a number of years now has been absolutely brilliant. In 2025, they won the Elite League in incredibly dramatic circumstances. They beat Nottingham Panthers 4-3 in a crucial game, which effectively won them the title. They were also Challenge Cup winners this year too. And Adam Keith, the job that he has done there should not be underestimated. I'll go as far to say that Adam Keith is one of the most inspirational coaches stroke managers this country has ever had. He's that good. And of course, he was a fantastic player for the Giants as well back in the day. So continued success for the Giants. They continue to pack them in at the SSE Arena, and I hope the story continues to run and run.
13. It's been an incredible year in the NFL for Northern Irish men. We've had Jude McAtanmey playing for the New York Giants, and then we had Charlie Smyth for the New Orleans Saints. Niamh, it's been incredible to see people, from here playing in the NFL. It's crazy.
I think Charlie Smyth was the really feel-good sort of narrative from the summer because he obviously did that transition from GA to the NFL. And I do think that he's from Mayo Bridge in County Down. And I know whenever he made his debut, it was sort of a surprise. He didn't really know he got the call up. And his parents managed to make it there in time. But I remember reading an article from our sister newspaper, the Irish Independent, that'd gone up to the wee pub to watch him, and there was some owl boys sitting around saying, "You're not watching that American football," sort of expletive insert there, and they still had the club championship on their iPad, so they still had the GAA going. So it has been brilliant for Charlie. I know that Charlie Smyth actually was a fan of the NFL himself growing up, so that's particularly nice for him. Jude McAtanmey, again, of course, he went over there. He's from Derry. It hasn't gone as well for him. I suppose Charlie's just starting out in this journey. Jude has been released now from the New York Giants practice squad with his place taken by a German tight end instead. And he's a former Derry under-20 Gaelic footballer. He missed 2 extra points in a defeat by the Denver Broncos. But I think it just goes to show as well how cutthroat the NFL is. Obviously, the GAA is quite cutthroat as well, but it's certainly a different setting when you go from a completely amateur sport to something as huge and professional as the NFL. But an amazing achievement. And a lot of Gaelic footballers, both male and female from here, we know already go to Australia for the AFL. So that's more sort of commonplace. But the fact that now young people are saying, oh my God, maybe I could make it to the NFL, which is like, people think Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift, all those superstars. So yeah, it's amazing. It's incredible.
If you think about it, whenever I was growing up, you had Joe Montana and Dan Marino.
Yeah.
But you never for one second thought you'd have a chance to play in the NFL. Your choices were a bit more limited.
Yeah.
But now you see what young Charlie is doing. That is so inspirational for kids all over the country. It really is, because it gives them now a chance to think, you know what, maybe I could be playing for the Kansas City Chiefs, the New York Giants, the Buffalo Bills. I could maybe be a quarterback. I could be a wide receiver.
Yeah.
Obviously, Charlie's this kicker, and he scored the winning points for New Orleans Saints in his home debut. So this guy's becoming a hero in this huge sport that no one in Northern Ireland thought was possible to make it in. Listen, if you can make it in America, you can make it anywhere.
Yeah.
So good luck to you, Charlie. You've got the support of Niamh and myself and Keith and everyone over here. So keep going, my friend.
12th on the list, it's Conor Bradley. He won the Premier League with Liverpool. You two are going to fight over which one of you gets to talk about this. Stephen, we'll go to you first.
I was going to say ladies first.
I've got my wee Liverpool bottle here as well. Yeah, Conor Bradley is just, obviously whenever we lost Trent, and I know a lot of Liverpool fans won't even want the mention of Trent Alexander-Arnold, but there was a lot of apprehension about what would happen, and Conor Bradley has... The only thing, he's very injury prone, and I feel like he always gets injured whenever he's playing with Northern Ireland, but he's also just sensational for Northern Ireland as well. He is incredible. I mean, he has made mincemeat out of the best footballers in the world, really. So he totally deserved that title. And I know we're going to go on a wee bit down the list, spoiler, to talk about the Dungannon Swifts winning the Irish Cup for the first time ever. But the fact that, yes, I talked before, Bradley comes from a GA background. He came through Dungannon, the Dungannon Swifts youth setup as well. And I think, again, that's testament to how brilliant our homegrown coaches are here as well.
He's a brilliant lad. First and foremost, that's the first thing I always look for in sports stars, how they are as people. And Conor Bradley has been brought up superbly. I love chatting to him. I love having a bit of crack with him. And he's obviously always a good interviewee. And this year, Conor Bradley excelled on a number of occasions for Liverpool, for Northern Ireland. The fact that he won the Premier League was absolutely brilliant. First Northern Ireland man to win the Premier League for Liverpool since the very, very first King of the Cup, the great Alicia Scott, and that was back in the 1920s. He was also the first person from Tyrone to win the Premier League, because Northern Ireland haven't had too many Premier League winners. They've had Johnny Evans and Roy Carroll at Manchester United. Premier League started in 1992, the year of my birth. But it's brilliant because so many modern day football fans see the Premier League and that's it. Obviously, I see things that have gone way in the distance. But yeah, so fantastic for Conor. And the beauty about it was his joy whenever Liverpool actually won the league title. Watched him run around Anfield and his name was being chanted by the Kop, and glorious sight, glorious to hear. And I think it's really brilliant for young footballers in Northern Ireland to have someone like Conor to look up to, because you always want your stars to play in the big teams. So you want them to be at Liverpool, at Manchester United, at Arsenal, clubs like that. And he is an exceptional footballer. And he's not the only one, because if you think about it, Trey Hume and Daniel Ballard were exceptional for Sunderland whenever they won promotion to the Premier League. And look what those two guys are doing now. They have taken to the top flight in English football like a duck to water. And again, two fantastic lads. And another one, Justin Devaney, Crystal Palace, he won the FA Cup. Yep. Goodness me, the success we've had. So that boy is an eagle and he will soar. One of the best left foots in the country. And also he scored the winning penalty in the Community Shield at Wembley. And I know that moment meant a lot to him and his family. And we shouldn't forget our managers. Grant McCann took Doncaster Rovers into League One. Grant's a brilliant manager, really well respected. Brendan Rodgers won the Scottish Premiership title for Celtic before it all went a little pear-shaped. And some crazy things from Dermot Desmond were said about Brendan. I think everyone knows I'm a big admirer of Brendan Rodgers and the work that he has done over the years. Then Martin O'Neill came in to replace Brendan in an interim capacity and showed he was still a class act. And we shouldn't forget Stephen Robinson.
Yeah, remarkable one.
I love Robbo. Known him for a long time. And Robbo has led St Mirren to Scottish League Cup glory. Like St Mirren do not win many trophies. They're almost 150 years old, and they've basically won a handful of major trophies. And Stephen Robinson has put his mark on that team, and they more than deserved their victory against Celtic in the final. I thought it was a tactical masterclass from Stephen Robinson, who in time may become a Northern Ireland manager.
Just to point out there as well, you're so encyclopedic, Beaco, and I liked your article actually about Stephen Robinson at the weekend because I was reading it too. But Joel Kerr as well, I don't know if that was mentioned, he was just me being from the GA background as well. He was a Tyrone minor footballer, and he signed with West Ham as well from Glentoran in the summer as well, and he actually missed the All-Ireland Minor Football Championship because West Ham didn't let him play it. But just thinking about, the amount of people, when you put it like that, the list, that you're just churning out these great footballers that are obviously great in multiple sports as well at the same time.
11th on the list. Well, last year, Hannah, Scott and Philip Doyle both won medals in rowing at the Olympics, and they did it again this year.
Yeah, two fantastic characters. Like, if you ever get a chance to talk to Hannah Scott, you'll be beaming after the interview. What a wonderful lady she is. She's obviously Olympic champion, and this year she won a silver medal at the World Rowing Championships, competing for Team GB. And the thing is, Hannah was probably disappointed with that because this girl is a winner and then some. But what she's doing for Coleraine as a town and Northern Ireland as a country is just off the charts. And then you've got Philip Doyle, who was competing for Ireland at the World Rowing Championships from Banbridge, and he won a bronze medal. And Philip is another wonderful character. He's a doctor by trade. And I believe next year he's going to go on RTE's Dancing with the Stars. If I know Philip, he's going to waltz away to glory. I can't wait to see him do the samba. I might have to text him or something after that one. But Philip and Hannah deserve immense praise. Medals at World Championship level, that's fantastic.
Now, we're into the top 10. What about Tyrone going to Croke Park and knocking the mighty Dublin out of the All-Ireland Championships at the quarter-final stage? That was an incredible afternoon.
That was incredible. I actually wasn't at that game, but I went to the following semi-final where we lost to Kerry. But that was incredible because anyone that knows GA and Gaelic football knows that Dublin are obviously the powerhouse of football the last decade or so. That's the first time Tyrone have beaten Dublin in the championship since 2008. So definitely monumental. And I think a lot of people, not to say people didn't have expectations, but Tyrone, I keep going to say we, because I'm from Tyrone, but to be unbiased here, Tyrone have a new manager this year in the form of Malachy O'Rourke. They obviously won the All-Ireland in 2021 and have been very poor since then. So it's not to say there were expectations, but I don't think anyone really expected that. I think on paper, Tyrone looks like they've actually it seemed like they've had a bad year, but in reality, when you're there, they haven't. They got relegated to Division 2 in the league, but they're on the highest. They did so with the highest points, for anyone to ever be relegated to Division 2. They also only lost to Armagh by a point in the Ulster semi-final. Armagh then only lost by a point to Donegal in the Ulster final, and that went to extra time. And then it ended up in a melee, but we'll not get into that. So it has been, again, Donegal then went on to lose to Kerry in the final. I'm a strong believer of Jim McGuinness's psychology is unmatched, so I do think they will be back in strong force. But I do think the following year, Ulster football has continued to show, especially in the club championship as well. It's the most competitive in all the provinces. We've had the new rule changes this year as well, in terms of the big changes are 2-pointers now, and they've tried to stop blanket defences with the minimum players up and down rule. And so we even saw, for example, Louth win Leinster was, again, incredible. So I think everyone's thinking Dublin is imploding. I don't think that'll be the case. I just think the new rules have allowed speedier, more exciting football, and we've seen a lot of underdogs come up as a result of that. But I do think Tyrone and Armagh and Donegal are probably the three main powerhouses of Ulster in terms of inter-county at the minute. So I think next year will be really exciting. Everyone will be settled into the new rules a bit more.
Are we going to see an Ulster team win the Sam Maguire in 2026?
I honestly, I think Donegal will be, again, Jim McGuinness is the type of person to go away and really hammer home and learn from mistakes. Now they've lost their captain there. Patrick McBurdy has stepped away because of a recurring knee injury. He's a big loss. But I would like to say, don't know if Tyrone are there and thereabouts just yet. Armagh could maybe come back and do it. I always say, and you know what it is as well, I was at the Armagh Galway final last year, and as much as everyone rows and has a bit of slagging between each other, you always want to see the Ulster team do well, especially the 6 counties.
I fancy Armagh.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go on this purely because of Kieran McGeeney.
Yes.
Because he'll want to reassert his authority within that team and also reassert Armagh's authority within Ireland. So you're going to go for...
I'll say a Tyrone out of pure heart.
So we're going to have a Tyrone Armagh final.
You'd love that again. You'd actually love that again, the way it was back in the noughties. But yeah, hopefully, yeah, because Kerry's boring. Dublin's boring. I've seen it all before. So.
And for Mana, well, we can only wish the Lakeland men all the best.
Well, coming in at number 9, it's Linfield winning the Irish League title. It's not unusual for Linfield to win the Irish League title, let's be honest, Stephen, but it was the way they did it and by the amount of points they won it by. They were genuinely very impressive and throughout the 24-25 campaign.
Yeah, I would suggest that it was one of Linfield's best ever league title successes, because if you look at the start of the season, Keith, the manager David Healy was under insane pressure. Fans wanted him out, fans of Linfield, that is. Not all of them, but a fair few, which was surprising to me. But Healy kept his nerve, and Linfield absolutely romped to the title. They won it by over 20 points, I think, in the end, which is just ridiculous for any league. And you had the Joel Cooper story in the middle of this, because Joel, of course, had decided that he would go to Coleraine at the end of the season, and that didn't stop him from producing brilliant performance after brilliant performance, and obviously he won a host of Player of the Year awards. I think you've got to give credit to players like Jamie Mulgrew and Kirk Miller, who have been there, done it, worn so many Champions t-shirts. It's ridiculous, but those guys are the heart and soul of Linfield, and it's obviously a very, very competitive division now, the Premiership, because you've got 4 full-time teams, and it's going to be tough to see who wins it this season because it's going to be so close. But you've got to give Linfield credit. The way they won it was classy and dominant, and it just goes to show you what a fantastic manager David Healy is.
Coming in at number 8, it's Northern Ireland men qualifying for the World Cup playoffs. They play Italy in the semi-finals in March. Probably the highlight of that run was the 2-0 win over Slovakia at Windsor Park.
Yeah, the atmosphere that night at Windsor was just incredible. It really was. And when Trey Hume volleyed home that brilliant lob, I thought he was like Roger Federer for a minute, lobbing Nadal in centre court. It was just beautiful. And you see, whenever you get goals like that, you know they're coming. So you're almost up. The fans were up even before the ball entered the net. That was the moment for me of the international year. It was just glorious. And that night, Northern Ireland were excellent. They just played Slovakia off the park. They could have won by a lot more. And it continued that feel-good factor within the Green and White Army about what this team is going to go on and achieve. I think we've got the right man at the helm in Michael O'Neill. Certainly the young players would tell you that he is delivering for them, both as a man manager and tactically. Obviously, Northern Ireland are going to have the World Cup playoffs in 2026. They've got a really tough draw away to Italy, but Italy haven't reached the last 2 World Cups, and they will be as nervous as newborn kittens. So it's time for Northern Ireland to go to Italia and be gladiators, and have that inner Russell Crowe in them all and go out there and produce one of the best performances of their lives. And it's possible. Of course, then you've got to go to Wales or Bosnia and win the final. But if you can beat Italy, you can beat Wales or Bosnia. So, I think there's a lot of hope and encouragement for this Northern Ireland team. And I will say this, if Northern Ireland don't reach the 2026 World Cup, you will see them at the 2028 European Championships, because this team is growing And I will say now that you will see them in a major tournament in the next few years.
I think so as well, because I don't really report on the sports side as much as Stephen does, but I've interviewed a lot of the fans, and the hysteria, I would say, like, you know, thank goodness that they got to the playoffs, but I was interviewing people that were saying we were already booking tickets to, you know, wherever it might be, Texas, New York, because obviously it's going to be across America and Canada. So I think, yeah, there's just a really feel-good factor at the minute, isn't there? A lot of people are, you know, some diehards would say they're jumping on the bandwagon, but I think it's nice that people are jumping on the bandwagon and they're going out and they're getting usually their Northern Ireland jerseys with Bradley on the back and stuff. So I think it's a really nice time.
You've been at loads of matches this year, Keith. How have you felt?
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's great. I really enjoy going to Northern Ireland away games as a fan rather than a reporter, because it means that I get to have a few beers and have a good time while Stephen does the work. But the campaign itself, I felt that we had enough there to finish second and to finish out of Slovakia. We were never realistically going to finish out of Germany. The thing that it kind of did for Northern Ireland in that group is the fact that Slovakia beat Germany in the first game of the campaign. We were always kind of behind the 8 ball. These World Cup playoffs coming up in March, I think it's very unlikely that Northern Ireland will qualify, being honest about it, because you need to go away and beat Italy, and then you almost need to go and do something that's difficult again 5 days later. It's an enormous ask. We've got an absolute nightmare draw. Amazingly, if we did get to the finals, we've got like quite a handy draw when you get there, but I think it's probably too big an ask for this team at this time. But as you say, Stephen, you can see it building and you can see it improving. This is maybe a tournament too soon, but 2028, really good, realistic chance of qualifying, and I think that would be magnificent.
And you know what? It'll be a lot cheaper to go to England, Scotland, Wales, maybe Ireland, than it will be to go to the States.
Get
that's
the boat.
for sure.
Yeah,
You and I boat.
You're going to start me off in a rant about the World Cup draw, and no one needs to hear that again. So let's move on to number 7. This was a magnificent weekend, not least for me because it was my birthday, but it was the Royal Portrush hosting the Open Championship. Niamh, you were there?
Yeah, that's not where I first met Stephen, actually.
What a week that was.
We had the crack. And again, the Stephen and the other sports lads, Adam and Gareth, bless them, because they were more focused on the sport. I had to do the fun stuff, so going around and interviewing international visitors and all the rest. And I remember one piece I did was about how much people were spending on merch. And the girls in the official Open shop were saying, you know, one American came in and dropped 13 grand in one transaction. So, you know, incredible for the Northern Irish economy. I know there was a lot of controversy at the time about certain businesses in Portrush really hiking their prices up. But it was great. One thing, and I think it's just because we're from such a small place here in Northern Ireland, but the amount of international visitors, American, Swedish, Danish, they were coming to see Rory McIlroy. Mm-hmm. You kind of forget how massive Rory McIlroy is on this world stage. So it was brilliant for that reason. I also interviewed a man who was in attendance whenever it first came to Portrush in 1951 as well. So that was lovely. You know, this... I think he might have been the only person there that had been to both. It was a lovely, the week was a bit mad with weather in terms of rain, sunshine, hail, all the rest. But for me personally, I wasn't a golf fan beforehand. I really got into it, being there with the vibe of everything, and it was a great week to work at as well.
Mm-hmm. Niamh was superb. Great company, great worker. It was a really fun week, wasn't it, Niamh, up in Portrush?
It was good crack. Yeah. It was really good. It was a good week to be working.
What about the golf itself? Scotty Scheffler, of course, won the claret jug.
Yeah, well, Scotty Scheffler showed his class and his consistency, and in many respects, he just walked away with the tournament. You know, we hoped that there would be a late surge maybe from Rory in the final round, but that didn't really materialise. And Scotty Scheffler, he was brilliant. He really was, and loved the experience. I think all of the big names loved the experience. And for me, my favourite moment was standing beside the 13th green on the Saturday when Rory McIlroy at that point in the third round was making a charge, and he held this monster putt for an eagle, and the noise around the 13th green, it just reverberated all around Portrush. I'm certain you could have heard the roar in Coleraine. It was just one of those magical sporting moments, and probably a moment that McIlroy will reflect on in years to come, thinking, goodness me, how good was that? But Scheffler was a deserved winner on the day. what I would add is that Northern Ireland once again showed that if you bring a major sports event to here, we can produce absolute excellence. It was a world-class event. And you've heard of Anne Robinson and the weakest link. Well, Royal Portrush, in my opinion, is now the strongest links course in the open rota. And the RNA will definitely bring it back here, not just because the course was outstanding and not just because Royal Portrush did such a wonderful job on hosting it, but the crowds, there were record-breaking crowds all week. For practice days, thousands upon thousands of people were coming through the gates. And the vibe, as Niamh was saying, the atmosphere was electric throughout, and it was a joy to report on. And yeah, definitely one of the best sporting moments of 2025.
In at number 6, it's Dungannon Swifts winning the Irish Cup for the first time in their history. Stephen, you and I watched that together. It was an incredible day. They a 1-1 draw with Cliftonville. It looked like the Swifts were going to win it in normal time, and then Shay Gurney pops up with that late wonder goal to send to extra time. We all thought Cliftonville were going to go on and win the cup from there, but Dungannon held on for penalties with 10 men and then won the shutout. Declan Dunn, the hero.
It was really dramatic, wasn't it? You know, I love those dramatic finals where there's a bit of late drama.
You weren't saying that at the time. You were cursing the fact you had your match report finished.
Always the way journalists go. It's like,
I know. But you know what? I was glad the way that it turned out. And this is no slight on Cliftonville Football Club, who have a lot of time for it, but they won the Irish Cup the year before, breaking that long barren spell. Dungannon Swifts had never won the Irish Cup. And to see the smiles on the faces of Rodney McIlroy, the manager, Dixie Robinson, his able assistant, and all the players and all the fans, you know, you can't buy that joy. You can't buy that love of that football club that they have. And they would have went home that night thinking it really doesn't get any better than this. And the match itself, as you say, was dramatic. Declan Dunn, who's one of the great Irish League characters, obviously he was the penalty shootout hero. Don't forget that Dungannon Swifts played a lot of that match with 10 men for a very unjust sending off, in my opinion. But I was lucky enough to go down to Stangmore Park a few days afterwards and meet up with Rodney McIlroy and Dixie Robinson, and not sure if they were still worse for wear, like, you know, but they were in great spirits and joyous day, because sometimes it's nice to see the underdog show some bite, and Dungannon Swifts is a proper football club with proper people behind it, and I was delighted for them. We should also mention, by the way, that Cliftonville did have some joy at Windsor Park in a cup final, and the great Joe Gormley scored the winning goal against Glentoran, so Jim Magilton had a good season as well.
Niamh, we used to say in Irish League circles that the Swifts are a great club, but the people in Dungannon don't often get behind them because their crowds aren't that great. Dungannon really bought into that Irish Cup victory and that whole experience.
They really did bring it. Buy-in, Keith, and one thing as well, and my boss, Adrian Rutherford, he was there as well, and he's a Dungannon Swifts fan through and through. I'm from Dungannon myself, and I have many like family members and extended family that help coach. It's the friendliest club.
Yeah.
I know, don't know if people know this, Northern Ireland can be a bit divided sometimes.
Seriously?
And I know sometimes that might be reflected in sport, but Dungannon Swifts is not, I don't really like the word cross community, but it really, really is. It's such a friendly club. And I went down to interview fans a few days before the Irish Cup final. I went and I met Rodney and Dixie, two of the nicest men you could meet. And like, I think it was the Wednesday or Thursday night before that weekend when they played, and they were coaching like, I think it was like 7 to 9 year olds in Dungannon Youth United. And I'm like, you're doing this before one of the biggest games of your career, which was so lovely. And as you say, Stephen Scott got a bit unfairly sent off. They really are such a family club, because after they won, they went to the Viscounts. Stephen's dad owns that restaurant. They put on the biggest spread for them and anyone that wanted to come, any fans. And I think it's particularly nice for Rodney because, and I was saying this to him too, you know, he captained the Swifts. He's a real homegrown hero, and he captained them in the 2007 Irish Cup final against Linfield, which they went to lose on penalties. So it was really nice sort of redemption for him. And again, just, I think even Cliftonville's fans I spoke to, like Brian Smyth is a Green Party councillor, he even said, he was like, you know, you're nearly raging that you're against them because they're the one club you couldn't begrudge them winning. So I think that was a real feel-good story of the year too.
Absolutely. Another feel-good story was Kate O'Connor winning silver in the heptathlon at the World Championships in Tokyo. What an incredible performance, Stephen.
Yeah, Kate is one determined lady. First interviewed her at the Commonwealth Games when she won silver, and coached by her dad. And the one thing that struck me then was her vigor to just keep getting better and better, and her desire to work hard, because the heptathlon is one tough event. You know, you've got to be good at so many athletics disciplines, and boy, has Kate delivered. She's gained personal best after personal best this year. She obviously was a medal winner at the pentathlon as well in the World Championships and the Europeans, and then indoors, and then to go on to the World Athletics Championship, which is probably second only in athletics to the Olympics, and to produce the performance that she did over there was it was absolutely majestic. And the smile on her face, you know, after she would gain these personal bests, it just lit up the stadium, and it lit up the TVs for people back home watching. So yeah, continued success for Kate down the line. Obviously, she's got the Olympics in her sights in a few years, and it wouldn't surprise me, given her desire to be the best that she can be, that she's on the podium at the Games at some point as well.
We've got the Commonwealth Games coming up as well this year, and I can't wait for the battle between her and Katrina Johnson-Thompson. I think that it'll be those two will be the two favourites for gold. It should be a really exciting run off that one. Moving on to number 4, Michael Dunlop's hat-trick at the Northwest 200 and a load of wins at the Isle of Man TT. Stephen, what an incredible figure Michael Dunlop is.
Let's talk about this magnificent man and his flying machines. Michael Dunlop is one of those people in Northern Ireland that I think every single person admires. Obviously, you have the whole family background of the Dunlops and the tragedy that has occurred through the years in that sport for them. But what Michael Dunlop continues to achieve is one of the greatest things in the history of Northern Ireland sport. This is a guy who takes motorcycling and road racing to a new level, in my opinion. If you think about it, Keith, he's now won 33 times at the Isle of Man TT. He won 4 times in 2025 on the mountain course. That's way above anyone else, including obviously his uncle Joey. He also won multiple races at the Northwest 200 this year. And people kind of see Michael as an enigma, because he is very, very much his own man. He does things his own way. He's not, in many respects, like your modern-day sports star who will happily be interviewed here, there, and everywhere.
He's not going to show up on TikTok, is he? He's a very private individual.
Yeah, and he does it his way, and I love that about him. You know, quick story, when he was... his autobiography came out, and I had a chance to interview him, and the autobiography is off the charts. It's one of the best books I've ever read, by the way. And we had a time where we were supposed to do the interview, and of course I was phoning Michael, and no answer, and I was waiting for this guy for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. I was thinking, Michael, where the heck are you? But that's Michael. Again, he does it his way. When he did come on the phone, he was pure gold. And there are so many people in Northern Ireland and further afield who love motorcycling. And for me, like, Michael is the king of the roads. And another motorcycling great we should pay tribute to right now is Jonathan Ray, who obviously retired in 2025. This is a 6-time world champion, an all-time great in Northern Ireland sport, and everything that Jonathan achieved, we should pay homage to, because he was the number 1 in the World Superbikes for so long, and always did it with a touch of class, a touch of finesse, and I know he was hugely respected in the paddock. And well done, Jonathan Ray, for an absolutely all-time great career.
Number 3, well, I don't know about you, Stephen, but I never thought I'd see Northern Ireland win the World Cup. But that's exactly what happened in Frankfurt when Northern Ireland, Josh Rock and Daryl Gurney won the World Cup of darts. It was incredible. They beat Wales 10-9 in the final, went right down to the very end. What an unbelievably exciting night of sport that was.
I feel like rising up from this seat and chanting "Stand up if you love the darts." I've got to say, first and foremost, the Luke Littler effect in darts has been extraordinary. Like, I've been watching darts since I was a kid. I used to play darts in the old Glencar Bar and the old Wild Duck Inn in Lisbolaw. I don't know if you've ever been to any of those places, Niamh, but well worth a visit. But used to watch Eric Bristow, Jockey Wilson, John Lowe, all those guys, and have followed darts throughout my life, basically, and Luke Littler's now taking it to a different level, and that's bringing on people like Josh Rock, who I believe is a future world champion. I don't want to put pressure on Josh, but I just love the way he plays, his rhythm, his finishing, his big scoring, and Josh Rock and Daryl Gurney in Frankfurt at the World Cup of Darts were absolutely phenomenal. I was jumping off my seat. I was so excited, the fact that these two guys were doing it for Northern Ireland and doing it with such passion. Like, when they won this tournament, Niamh, like, they were almost in tears.
They were really emotional,
It was incredible, wasn't it? And you love to see that from your sports stars, because it meant so much to them. And the fact that they beat Gerwyn Price and Johnny Clayton, who'd won this tournament a couple of times before, in an epic final, like, it was swinging from one way to the other, and then for the boys to come out on top 10-9. Yeah, it was without question one of the best moments of this sporting year. Brilliant Josh, brilliant Daryl. Hope you win it in 2026 so we can experience it all over again.
Number 2, it's Lewis Crocker. He won the IBF Welterweight World title at Windsor Park, defeating Paddy Donovan. What a special night, Niamh, that was at Windsor. That
was an incredible night, and it's so nice for Lewis as well, being from Sandy Row, getting to fight in the National Stadium. And I know, obviously, they think that he's going to have 2 defence fights there next year. I think it was you, Stephen, writing that they don't actually know if that might happen now, because the executive has to contribute, I think, a 6-figure sum to help make that happen. But obviously that's something that everyone in Northern Ireland would be dying for. The Paddy Donovan fight especially was so exciting because, again, if anyone was at the fight back in March when they first fought together, Crocker was getting hammered. Paddy Donovan was really winning that fight. There was obviously a lot of drama going on in the SSE Arena with fans to the side, but it was controversial because Paddy Donovan then got disqualified for low blows. That was a world eliminator fight, but Boots Ennis, who held that title, he moved up a weight, which meant that now this IBF world title was on the line for Crocker. So it's just incredible. I know that he had maybe set his sights on Conor Benn, which would just be so huge, but I know Conor Benn has said that he is setting his sights on something bigger. I think that's all a sort of money game to decide, but the future definitely does look really, really good for Crocker. There's even talk that he might be going over to America to fight Manny Pacquiao. It's just, we haven't really seen, as I said before, blood is in Belfast boxing. We have great boxers. Obviously, we had Frampton. We have Tyrone McKenna, Sean McComb. He's on a great path at the minute. Padraig McCrory, Anto Kakachi. But I do think Crocker at the minute, obviously because he's got a world title now as well, the sky is really the limit for him. And it's just, again, he has really brought all sides of the community together too. So it's just, I can see why he's not number 1, because I know we're getting the number 1, but I think he's a strong contender for number 1.
I think in any other year that probably would have been number 1.
Yeah, the world's is oyster, isn't it?
Yeah.
Once you become world champion, you go into a sort of different level. And what was so wonderful, I thought, that night at Windsor Park was it was a packed house. And everyone was so behind him. You're right, Niamh. The atmosphere was fantastic. And Lewis delivered, because a lot of people thought he'd no chance going into that fight. And tactically, he was very, very astute, carried out the orders from his corner to a T, obviously knocked Donovan down a couple of times as well. And for him to become world champion, he's a Linfield fan. He's a Northern Ireland fan. As you said, he just lives down the road in Sandy Row. So for him to go to Windsor Park and to win that title, unbelievable. I remember him telling me that he used to go on training runs. And he'd go past Windsor Park on his training run. And there was one occasion where he just stopped on his training run and looked up at the ground and thought to himself, wouldn't it be amazing if I could win a world title there someday? Dreams come true. Kids, dreams come true. If you believe it enough, these things can happen. Lewis Crocker is a great example of that. And I'm glad you mentioned Anthony Cacace as well, Niamh, because obviously Cacace's something else. His story's fantastic as well. Like this is a 36-year-old who's become this world champion, and he had a brilliant win in 2025 as well, beating Lee Wood. So I'm really excited to see where boxing goes in next year, because Cacace's going to have big fights. Obviously Crocker's going to have big fights. All the guys you mentioned. Michael Conlon's another one who could have a world title fight at some point. So boxing is on the crest of a wave.
I think the really important thing is that we get the Lewis Crocker fight at Windsor Park, because it would be a shame if it ended up the Odyssey, because so many people would not be able to go. It would be a disgrace if it ended up in England. We really need these big fights in Belfast, because we've got so many young talented boxers that you want the opportunity to be on that card and to have a fight at a big stadium like Windsor Park.
I think as well, what people maybe don't realise, I think people assume that once you become a world champion, you're a millionaire. That's not necessarily the case. I know whenever Tony Bellew became world champion, that's whenever he said, right, now that I've got this belt, I can go after the money fights. And that's why he went after David Hay, and he made way more money in those fights, than he did whenever he won his world title belt. So I think that's why it's disappointing that Conor Benn has sort of diffused the Lewis Crocker situation. But as you said as well, Stephen, Crocker, he went into that fight, I don't know if underdog's the right word, but the way he switched up his tactics, I know some people thought his win was controversial. Some people thought in points that Donovan did win. He still did drop Donovan twice, and Donovan didn't really step on the accelerator. People expected Crocker to go in and brawl. He didn't. He waited in the back foot and he countered. So I think it just goes to show how versatile he is as a boxer as well. And as you say, Keith, that is the big thing at the minute. And I know Carl Frampton has been writing in his columns for Sunday Life about the fact that the executive just really should put the hand in the... Frampton's words, not mine. Should put their hands in their pockets and get it sorted so that the Belfast and Northern Irish economy can get them fights for next year.
I'm not going to argue with Carl. I think he's right.
Drum roll, please. Number one. Well, was there any surprise in this? It's Rory McIlroy winning the Masters at Augusta, completing the Grand Slam. What an incredible achievement, and what a nerve-wracking night of sport that was, Stephen.
Keith, this isn't just the Northern Ireland number one sporting moment of 2025. This is the sporting moment of 2025 across the universe. Because if you think about it, very few men had won the Grand Slam before Rory McIlroy did what he did at the Masters. In fact, more men walked on the moon than have won the Grand Slam. So that puts it into context what Rory McIlroy achieved. And what made it even better was how he achieved it. Because he won it, he lost it. He won it, he lost it. And then eventually he won it. The drama of that Sunday night was absolutely spine-tingling. Because everyone in Northern Ireland, I guess, would have been watching on TV, hoping that Rory would be wearing that green jacket at the end of the night. But Rory, being Rory, didn't exactly make it easy, did he? And there were some moments you were thinking, oh no, what are you doing, mate? And then all of a sudden he comes up with these incredible shots that bring him back into contention and take him into the playoff with Justin Rose. I think we're all fans of Justin Rose. We've all a lot of time for him. But to see McIlroy step up in the playoff the way he did, just showed you that he had the heart of a champion. And bear in mind, he hadn't won a major since 2014. And he was chasing this Grand Slam for over a decade. So for him to come through didn't just show the class that he is as a golfer, but showed his character. And for me, it was just a magical moment, and obviously to see his wife and his child there as well. And I know he flew home to see his parents. He got very emotional in the butler cabin talking about his mum and dad. And it was joyous to see him put on the green jacket, because we've been waiting for this moment for so long. And, he did loads of other great things in 2025. He won the Irish Open. He was immense in the Ryder Cup, despite all the abuse from those nasty Americans. And he won a few other tournaments, including the Players' Championship. But 2025 will, for Rory McIlroy, be remembered as the year that he went into the pantheon of golfing greats.
He's the best European golfer of all time, I would say.
Well,
Sevi Ballesteros fans might push back.
There's a great argument for Sevi Ballesteros, but I see where you're going with it. He's the only one from Europe to win the Grand Slam, and what he has achieved in his career is phenomenal. I think if he wins a few more majors, there's no doubt.
Yeah.
Because Nick Faldo's obviously won 6 majors as well, so Rory has to surpass him. But yeah, he's the only one to win the Grand Slam. So yeah, I'm going to go with that too, even though I love Sevi.
And he also made an appearance in, if anyone was watching, the Happy Gilmore 2. Talked about it.
I saw it. Yeah,
it was, if anyone watched Happy Gilmore 1 with Adam Sandler, a 90s comedy classic, I didn't even realise Rory was making a cameo, so I was watching it going, Hollywood Northern Irish accent sounded very strange amongst the rest of them. But yeah, so he's made his Hollywood debut as well too. So what a year.
He's a true Hollywood hero, isn't he?
That's it, with one L and with 2.
Yeah, and again, what an inspiration for people in Northern Ireland. Like, Rory McIlroy is one of the most famous people on the planet. And he's one of the greatest sports people to ever live. That's coming from Northern Ireland. Like, for me, even before he won this, he was Northern Ireland's greatest sports person. I know there's a big debate you could have there with George Best, but for me, Rory was the number one, and he's still doing it. A sign of greatness is longevity, and Rory McIlroy's been around for a long time, and I do believe now he's got the 5th major, he's got that monkey off his back, he's got the green jacket on it. He can go on and win more majors in 2026, 27, 28. This guy can do whatever he wants. But for 2025, without question, he was the number one. And Rory, we were all delighted to see you win the Masters and become a Grand Slam champion.
Steven, Niamh, thank you for joining me on the BelTel.